Jake Sullivan walked into the big meeting room and felt like everyone was staring at him. The room was huge, with strange lights that made everything look blue and green. Seats were arranged in a circle, and each one held a different type of alien. Some looked like giant bugs, others were tall and thin with too many arms, and a few glowed with their own light. Jake was the human ambassador. He had been doing this job for 5 years now, and he was tired. Every meeting was the same. The aliens would complain about humans. They would make new rules that only humans had to follow. They would act like humans were children who needed to be watched all the time. Lisa Martinez sat next to Jake. She was his helper, and she carried a small computer to write down everything that happened. Lisa had short brown hair and wore a simple blue suit. She looked as tired as Jake felt. The meeting started when a tall alien with crystal skin stood up. This was Zexdale, the leader of the Valdorian people. He had 4 arms, and his voice sounded like breaking glass when he talked. "The humans have broken Rule 847B again," Zexdale said. His voice was loud and angry. "They are moving into space areas that we told them not to go into. They did not ask us first." Jake stood up slowly. He had heard this same complaint many times before. The aliens always said humans were doing something wrong. Okay. They never wanted to hear the human side of the story. "We followed all the rules," Jake said. His voice was calm and clear. "We filled out every form. We waited for your answers. We did everything you asked us to do." Another alien made a clicking sound. It was Clicker, who looked like a giant ant with big eyes. When his kind laughed, it sounded like someone clicking their tongue very fast. "You humans think you are so smart," Clicker said, "but you are still new to space. You grow too fast. You have too many babies. You ask too many questions." Jake looked over at Admiral Kate Rivers. She was sitting in the back of the room with the other human military officers. Kate was in charge of all the human spaceships that protected human worlds. She was a tough woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. When Jake looked at her, she gave him a small nod. That nod meant something important. It meant that the human ships were ready. It meant that humans had a choice to make. Jake picked up his papers from the table in front of him. He had been the human ambassador for 5 years. He had tried to make peace with these aliens. He had tried to make them understand that humans just wanted to live in peace and grow their families. But it never worked. Every meeting was the same. The aliens would complain. They would make new rules. They would treat humans like they were stupid or dangerous. "Maybe it is time we stop wasting each other's time," Jake said. He put his official papers on the table and stepped back. "Starting right now, humans are leaving the Galactic Council. We will not come to your meetings anymore. We will not follow your rules anymore. We will not ask for your permission anymore." The room exploded with noise. Every alien started talking at once. Some were shouting, others were making strange sounds that their translator machines could not understand. The noise was so loud that Jake could feel it in his chest. The main leader of the council was an alien called Vitherus. He looked like a tall human, but his skin was purple and he had no hair. He started hitting his energy hammer on the table to make everyone be quiet. "You cannot just leave," Vitherus shouted over the noise. "No one has ever left the council before. It is not allowed." Lisa closed her computer with a loud snap. The sound was sharp and clear in the noisy room. "There is a first time for everything," she said. Jake started walking toward the door. Lisa and the other humans followed him. Behind them, the aliens were still shouting and arguing. Jake could hear Zexdale demanding that the council punish humans. He could hear other aliens saying they needed to talk more. None of it mattered anymore. Jake had made his choice. Humanity had made its choice. As they walked down the long hallway that led away from the meeting room, Lisa walked beside Jake. "Do you think we did the right thing?" she asked. Jake thought about all the meetings he had sat through. He thought about all the rules that only applied to humans. He thought about all the times he had asked for simple things and been told no. "Lisa," he said, "for 30 years we've tried to be part of their club. We followed their rules. We asked nicely for everything. We let them treat us like we were not smart enough to make our own choices." They reached the door that led to the human section of the space station. Jake put his hand on the door control and stopped. "But we are smart enough," Jake continued. "We are smart enough to know when something is not working. We are smart enough to make our own way in the galaxy." The door opened and they walked through. Behind them, the sounds of arguing aliens grew quieter and quieter. Admiral Kate Rivers was waiting for them on the other side. "The ships are ready," she said. "We can be back in human space in 2 days." Jake nodded. "Then let's go home," he said. "We have work to do." As their ship flew away from the council station, Jake looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there were human worlds full of human families. Those people were counting on him to make the right choices. For the first time in 5 years, Jake felt like he had done something right. Humans were free now. They could make their own rules and their own choices. The galaxy was about to learn what humans could really do. 3 months had passed since humans left the Galactic Council. Captain Ryan Torres stood on the bridge of his cargo ship called Independence. The ship was big and strong, built to carry goods between human worlds. Ryan had been flying cargo ships for 15 years, but things felt different now. His ship was flying through space that used to belong to the Council. Now it belonged to nobody, or maybe it belonged to everyone. Ryan did not have to ask permission to fly here anymore. He did not have to fill out forms or wait for aliens to tell him yes or no. Captain Torres called Ben Parker from his station. Ben was young and good with the radio equipment. "I'm getting a distress call from another ship." Ryan looked at the big screen that showed what was around them in space. There was a ship out there, and it was not moving. The ship looked like it was built by the Thraxians, the bug-like aliens who always said humans were too dangerous. "What kind of trouble are they in?" Ryan asked. Ben listened to his equipment for a moment. "Their engine is broken. They cannot move, and they cannot fix it themselves." Commander Helen Cross was Ryan's second in command. She was a smart woman who had been in the human space navy before she joined Ryan's crew. Helen walked over to Ryan and spoke quietly. "Captain, we do not have to help them anymore. We are not part of the council. Their rules do not apply to us." Ryan knew Helen was right. The Thraxians had voted against humans many times in the council meetings. They had called humans wild animals and dangerous primitives. They had tried to stop humans from building new colonies and exploring new worlds. But Ryan could see the Thraxian ship on his screen. It was dark and cold. There were living beings inside that ship who needed help. "Ben, send them a message," Ryan said. "Tell them we are coming to help." Helen looked surprised. "Captain, are you sure about this?" "Helen, just because we left the council does not mean we stopped being human," Ryan said. "Humans help people who need help. That is who we are." While Ryan's ship moved toward the Thraxian vessel, something very different was happening on Earth. President Carl Davis sat in a big room under the White House with his most important advisors. They were talking about what had happened since humans left the council. "The reports from our colonies are amazing," said Nina Bell. She was in charge of keeping Earth safe from enemies. "Without the council rules slowing us down, our people are building and growing faster than ever before." Nina showed the president numbers on the computer screen. "Some of our colonies are now 3 times bigger than they were 3 months ago. People are building new cities, new factories, new farms. They are doing things the council never let them do before." General Pete Stone was the top military officer on Earth. He was an old soldier with gray hair and many scars from battles. "Mr. President, our military is also growing fast. The council always said we could only have small armies and weak weapons. They said it was to keep peace in the galaxy." Okay? Pete showed the president pictures of new spaceships and weapons. "We can see what humans can really build when nobody tells us to stop. Our new ships are faster and stronger than anything the council has." Dr. Sophie Grant was the president's science advisor. She was very smart and knew a lot about space and aliens. Sophie had news that worried everyone. "Mr. President, our listening stations in space are hearing a lot of fighting in council territory. Without humans there to help solve problems, the old alien enemies are fighting each other again." Okay. Sophie showed a map of the galaxy on the big screen. Red dots marked places where there was fighting. There were more red dots every day. "How long before this fighting affects us?" the president asked. "We do not know," General Stone said. "But we need to be ready for anything." While the leaders on Earth worried about the future, good things were happening in human space. Dr. Amy Foster worked in a big laboratory on the New Geneva colony. Amy was studying how to make ships talk to each other across very long distances. "I think I have figured out how to make messages travel faster than light," Amy told her team. "If this works, a message from Earth could reach our farthest colony in just a few minutes instead of several months." Amy's discovery was one of many new inventions that humans were making. Without council rules stopping them, human scientists were creating amazing new technologies. They were building better engines, stronger materials, smarter computers. Back on the cargo ship Independence, Captain Ryan and his crew had reached the broken Thraxian vessel. The alien ship was called Swiftclaw, and it carried a crew of 12 Thraxian traders. "This is Captain Torres of the human ship Independence," Ryan said over the radio. "We are here to help you fix your engine." The Thraxian captain sounded surprised. "Human ship, why do you help us? Your people left the council. You have no obligation to assist us." Ryan thought about that question. It was true that humans had no obligation to help. Dean, the Thraxians had never been friends to humans. Ryan knew what the right thing to do was, because that is what humans do. Ryan said simply, "We help people who need help." Ryan's crew worked for 6 hours to fix the Thraxian engine. Talia, they shared their food with the hungry aliens and gave them fuel for their journey home. When the work was done, the Thraxian captain seemed confused. "Why do you show us such kindness?" the alien asked. "My people have said harsh things about humans in the council." Ryan smiled. "Maybe your people will remember this kindness the next time someone asks them what humans are really like us." The two ships went their separate ways. Ryan felt good about what they had done. Humans were free now to make their own choices, and they were choosing to be the kind of people they wanted to be, not the kind of people others expected them to be. The galaxy was changing, and humans were showing everyone what they were really made of. 6 months had passed since the humans walked away from the Galactic Council. The big meeting room that used to be full of confident alien leaders now felt empty and scared. Emergency lights flashed red on the walls, and many seats sat empty, because some species had stopped coming to meetings altogether. Sextal stood at his crystal podium. He did not look proud anymore. The Valdorian leader, who had once dismissed humans as primitive animals, now looked tired and worried. His forearms shook slightly as he held the reports that told of disaster after disaster across the galaxy. "Order, please," Zexal called to the room, but his voice was weak. Many of the aliens were arguing with each other instead of listening to him. Council Leader Vitherus looked at the chaos around him and felt sick. For 2,000 years, the Galactic Council had kept peace in the galaxy. Different alien races had lived together without major wars. Trade had flowed smoothly between worlds. Disputes had been settled with words instead of weapons. Now, everything was falling apart. Commander Lixora stood to give her security report. She was a tall, reptile-like alien with green scales and yellow eyes. As the head of Council Security Forces, it was her job to keep peace in the galaxy. Honored members, Lixara said, we now have 17 active wars happening in areas that have been peaceful for generations. Our peacekeeping ships are trying to help, but there are too many fights and not enough ships. She pressed a button, and a big map appeared on the main screen. Red dots marked places where there was fighting. There were red dots everywhere. The Interior Trade Federation has cut off all business with the Kepler Collective because of a fight over mining rights. The Zephyrian Empire and the Crystal Hegemony are about to start a full war over who owns certain star systems. Tier. Clans are raiding supply ships because their trade agreements fell apart. Each red dot on the map represented thousands or millions of beings who were suffering. Lixara had been a soldier for 40 years, but she had never seen anything like this. What about the humans? A small alien from the back of the room. Could we ask them to come back and help us solve these problems? The room became very quiet. Everyone knew that humans had been very good at solving disputes between different species. Humans were new enough that they did not have old grudges against anyone. They were smart enough to find solutions that worked for everyone, and they were stubborn enough to make sure agreements were kept once they were made. But Zextal's pride would not let him admit that the council needed the humans back. We will not crawl back to those mammals, Zextal said, his voice getting louder. They left us. We will show the galaxy that we never needed them in the first place. But even as Zextal spoke those words, he knew they were not true. In private meetings with other council leaders, he had seen the reports about what humans were doing in their own space. Dr. Kethor was the council's top spy master. He was a thin alien with big black eyes who knew secrets from all across the galaxy. He had been watching human space very carefully since they left the council. The humans have built 17 new colonies in just 6 months. Dr. Kethor reported to the inner circle of council leaders. Terra technology is advancing faster than we thought possible. Terra military is now 4 times stronger than it was when they left us. Pythoras felt cold fear in his stomach. How can they grow so fast? Dr. Kethor showed them pictures taken by spy satellites. The pictures showed human worlds that were busy with construction. New cities were being built. New factories were making goods. New shipyards were building spacecraft. It appears that our rules and regulations were holding them back much more than we realized, Dr. Kethor said quietly. Without our oversight, they have been able to do things that would have taken decades to approve under our system. The most frightening news came from the edge of known space. Human ships were being seen in areas far beyond where they had ever been before. These ships were not just exploring randomly. They seemed to be following a careful plan. They are securing important resources and building bases along major trade routes. Dr. Kethor continued. This is not random expansion. They are following a long-term strategy. Council leader Vitharis looked at the star maps showing human activity. Where? So many human ships in so many places. Are you saying they are preparing for war? Unknown, Dr. Kethor replied. But their behavior is consistent with a species that is either planning rapid expansion or preparing for conflict. In another part of the council station, Clictor, the Thraxian, was having his own doubts about what his people had done. A few weeks ago, one of his merchant ships had broken down in space. The crew had been stranded and afraid they might die. Then a human cargo ship had appeared. The humans had spent hours fixing the Thraxian engine. They had shared their food and fuel. They had asked for nothing in return. Clictor remembered all the times he had called humans dangerous primitives in council meetings. But dangerous primitives did not risk their own safety to help strangers. Dangerous primitives did not show kindness to people who had been cruel to them. The Thraxian captain who had been rescued kept asking Clictar the same question. Why do the humans help those who have hurt them? Clictar did not have a good answer. Meanwhile, the fighting in Council Space was getting worse every day. The Zephyrian Empire had attacked 3 Crystal Hegemony outposts. The Antarian Federation had seized a Kepler collective mining station. The Mordic clans were now attacking passenger ships instead of just cargo vessels. Commander Ixora tried to send peacekeeping forces to stop the fighting, but there were not enough ships or soldiers. The Council military had been designed to deal with small disputes, not multiple wars. We need more ships, Lixara told the Council leaders. We need more soldiers. We need more resources. But the Council treasury was running low. Many member species had stopped paying their contributions because they were too busy fighting their own wars or dealing with their own problems. Sexthal looked around the nearly empty council chamber. Half the seats were vacant because species had either left or were too busy with conflicts to attend meetings. The aliens who were still there looked scared and angry. For 2,000 years, the Galactic Council had been the most powerful organization in the galaxy. Kings and emperors had bowed to council authority. Entire civilizations had followed council law. Now that power was crumbling, and everyone could see it happening. Perhaps, said a quiet voice from the back of the room, we should consider that. The humans were not the problem. Perhaps we were. The room fell silent. No one wanted to admit it, but deep down, they all knew it was true. 1 year had passed since humans left the Galactic Council. Admiral Kate Rivers stood on the bridge of her new ship called the Defiance. It was the biggest and most powerful warship humans had ever built. Around her ship, dozens of other human vessels moved in perfect formation through space. Kate watched her fleet practice battle maneuvers. The ships moved like dancers, turning and spinning in patterns that would have been impossible just 1 year ago. Every captain knew exactly what to do without being told. All ships are responding perfectly to the new neural command system, reported Captain Alex Murphy, Kate's tactical officer. Response times are 340% faster than our old systems. The neural command system was one of many amazing inventions that human scientists had created since leaving the council. Dr. Amy Foster had started with her. Faster than light communication discovery, but that had led to even more breakthroughs. Human computers were now smarter. Human materials were stronger. Human weapons were more precise than ever before. Kate smiled as she watched her ships work together. The council had always limited how many ships humans could build and what weapons they could carry. They said it was for galactic peace, but Kate knew better. They had been afraid of what humans might accomplish if they were not held back. Now, the galaxy was seeing what humans could really do on the other side of human space. Ambassador Rachel Green was meeting with alien diplomats who had come to make deals with humanity. These aliens did not come as rulers giving orders. They came as equals, asking for partnerships. The Antarians are very interested in our manufacturing methods, Rachel told President Davis during her weekly report. They want to trade exclusive access to their rare mineral deposits for our industrial cooperation. Rachel sat in her office on the new Humanity Station, a massive space facility that served as the center for human diplomacy. Through her window, she could see ships from a dozen different alien species docked at the station. All of them had come to do business with humans. Several species have asked us about mutual defense agreements, Rachel continued. They are worried about the instability in council space and see humans as a stabilizing force. President Davis found this news both amusing and satisfying. For 30 years, the council had painted humans as dangerous troublemakers who threatened galactic peace. Now alien species were coming to humans, asking for protection from the chaos that the Council could no longer control. Secretary of Defense Nina Bell added her own observations. The requests for help are increasing every week. Yesterday, we received formal requests from the Kepler Collective, the Meridian Alliance, and 3 independent worlds. But the most important development was happening at the edge of human space, where Captain Steve Williams commanded an exploration ship called the Pioneer. Steve and his crew had been exploring unknown regions of the galaxy when they made a discovery that changed everything. Mr. President, Steve reported through the quantum communication link. We have found something that changes the whole strategic picture. On his ship's main screen, Steve showed images of what looked like giant metal rings floating in space. The rings were clearly artificial, built by some ancient civilization that had disappeared long ago. Each ring was enormous, big enough for the largest spaceships to fly through. These are jump gates, Steve explained. They allow instant travel between distant parts of the galaxy. We have found over 30 of them so far, and they are all connected in a network. Dr. Sophie Grant, analyzing the data from Earth, could hardly believe what she was seeing. Mr. President, if we can activate and control this network, it would give humanity access to resources and territory that could support billions of colonists. The Jumpgate network was like finding a treasure map to unimaginable riches. More than that, it was a way for humans to expand across the galaxy without having to travel slowly through normal space. They could bypass all of Council territory and reach new worlds that no one had ever seen before. How long before we can use the network? President Davis asked. Our engineering teams estimate 6 months for basic activation, 2 years for full integration with our existing systems, Dr. Sophie replied. General Pete Stone leaned forward in his chair. Mr. President, this gives us options we never had before. If the Council continues to fall apart, we can offer sanctuary to entire populations. If they try to attack us, we have strategic depth they cannot match. The discovery of the jump gates came at exactly the right time. Reports from Council space showed that the situation was getting worse every day. The fighting had spread to over 40 star systems. Refugee ships were fleeing the violence, looking for safe places to live. Many of those refugee ships were heading toward human space. Captain Ryan Torres, still commanding his cargo vessel Independence, had been tasked with helping refugee operations. His ship was now part of a small fleet that rescued aliens from war zones and brought them to safety. This is the 4th refugee convoy this week, Ryan told his crew as they approached another group of damaged alien ships. These people have lost everything because their leaders could not stop fighting. The refugees came from many different species. Some were families fleeing bombed-out colonies. Others were traders whose businesses had been destroyed by the wars. A few were even former council officials who had lost their jobs when their governments collapsed. All of them were amazed by how humans treated them. Instead of being processed through bureaucratic systems like the council used to do, refugees were quickly given food, medical care, and safe places to live. Human colonies opened their doors to alien families without asking for anything in return. "Why do you help us?" asked a young Safarian whose family had lost their home in the war. "We are not your people." Commander Helen Cross, who was helping distribute supplies to the refugees, smiled at the alien child. "'Cause helping people is what humans do," she said simply. Word of human kindness spread quickly among the refugee populations. Soon, alien families were specifically requesting to be rescued by human ships because they knew they would be treated well back on Earth. President Davis met with his advisors to discuss the changing situation. The holographic display in the Situation Room showed the galaxy divided into 3. Kiwi, Council space marked in red, where there was fighting. Human space marked in blue, where there was peace and growth. And unknown space marked in green, where the ancient jump gates waited to be activated. "We are at a turning point," President Davis told his team. 1 year ago, we were a minor species asking for permission to exist. Today, we are becoming the strongest power in the galaxy. General Stone pointed to the display. Our military is now stronger than any single council member. Our technology is advancing faster than theirs. Our people are more united and motivated than theirs. But most importantly, added Dr. Sophie, we are offering the galaxy something the council never could: hope. We show species that there is a better way to live together. As Admiral Kate Rivers prepared her fleet for another training exercise, she thought about how much had changed in just 1 year. Humans had not sought to become a galactic power. They had simply wanted to be free to live their own lives and make their own choices. But sometimes, you stop trying to control everything and just focus on doing the right thing. You discover that you were more powerful than you ever imagined. The galaxy was learning that lesson now, and humans were the teachers. 2 years had passed since humans walked away from the Galactic Council. The old council building now stood mostly empty. Atias covered the fancy chairs where alien leaders used to sit. The bright lights had been turned off to save energy. Only a few security guards remained to watch over what had once been the most powerful place in the galaxy. Commander Lixara gave her final report to the handful of aliens still showed up for council meetings. Her green scales looked dull and her yellow eyes were tired from months of bad news. We now have 34 active wars, 12 trade conflicts, and 6 governments that have completely collapsed, Lixara said to the nearly empty room. Our peacekeeping forces can only help evacuate civilians and deliver emergency supplies. Council leader Vitheris sat in his chair looking much older than he had 2 years ago. His purple skin was pale and his shoulders were bent with worry. He read reports that painted a picture of total failure. The Galactic Council, that had kept peace for 2,000 years, was falling apart. The final blow came when the Kepler Collective, one of the founding members of the council, announced they were leaving to make their own deals with humanity. I cannot stay in an organization that has proven unable to maintain basic stability, declared Collective Representative Narration during what would be the council's last full meeting. The humans have shown that there are better alternatives to council authority. After Naresh finished speaking, he walked out of the chamber. Half of the remaining aliens followed him. By the end of the day, only 12 species remained in what had once been a council of over 50 members. Meanwhile, in human space, something wonderful was happening. President Davis stood on the observation deck of Humanity Station, a massive space facility that had become the center of a new kind of galactic government. Through the huge windows, Davis could see ships from 43 different alien species docked at the station. But these aliens had not come to demand or threaten. They had come to work together as partners with humanity. Ambassador Jake Sullivan, the same man who had walked out of the council 2 years ago, now found himself coordinating this new form of galactic cooperation. Instead of enforcing rules from above, this system was based on voluntary cooperation and mutual respect. The principles are simple, Jake explained to a group of new alien ambassadors. Every species has the right to develop according to their own nature and needs. We work together because we choose to, not because we are forced to. The difference between this system and the old council could not have been bigger. Instead of complicated rules and endless bureaucracy, problems were solved through honest discussion between equals. Instead of punishment for breaking rules, there were rewards for working together. Dr. Amy Foster, now directing the Galactic Research Initiative, was amazed by what happened when species worked together by choice. When people cooperate because they want to instead of because they have to, the results are incredible. She reported to President Davis. Human and alien scientists working together had made discoveries that neither could have achieved alone. New medicines were healing diseases that had plagued civilizations for centuries. New technologies were making life better for billions of beings across the galaxy. The ancient Jumpgate network was now fully operational under human management. Captain Steve Williams, commanding his exploration ship Horizon, sent regular reports from the edge of known space. "We have made contact with 7 new species in the outer galaxy," Steve reported. "All of them want to join the cooperation network instead of trying to rebuild the old council system." The jump gates had opened up vast new regions of space for exploration and settlement. More importantly, they had created the foundation for a new kind of galactic civilization based on freedom and cooperation instead of control and fear. Admiral Kate Rivers, now commanding what was called the Galactic Defense Fleet, reviewed the security situation with great satisfaction. Her ships protected trade routes and kept peace across hundreds of star systems, but they did so as guardians, not as conquerors. Violent incidents are down 78% across all sectors under cooperation network governance, Kate reported to President Davis. "It turns out that people behave better when they are treated as partners instead of subjects." The proof of humanity's success came in an unexpected way. Former council leader Vithera arrived at Humanity's station not as a representative of a government, but as a refugee seeking safety. President Davis met with Vithera in his private office. The former alien leader looked broken and ashamed as he sat across from the human president. "Your species was right," Vithera admitted quietly. "We spent so long trying to control everyone that we forgot how to actually lead. You walked away from our system and built something much better." President Davis looked out his window at the busy activity of Humanity Station. Dozens of different species worked together, building new technologies, creating art, raising families, and pursuing their dreams and freedom. "We did not build something better to hurt you," Davis replied kindly. "We built it because it was necessary." Captain Ryan Torres, still flying his cargo ship Independence, had seen the transformation from the beginning. His ship now carried goods and passengers between worlds where different species lived together in peace. The refugees he had once rescued from war zones were now productive citizens of thriving colonies. "It is amazing how much can change in just 2 years," Ryan told his crew as they approached a space station where humans and aliens worked side by side. "When people are free to be their best selves, incredible things happen." Lisa Martinez, who had been Jake's assistant when they walked out of the council, was now an ambassador herself. She often thought about that day when humanity had chosen freedom over security. "We did not know what would happen when we left," Lisa told new human diplomats during their training. "We just knew that staying meant accepting limits on what we could become." The old Galactic Council chambers stood empty now, a reminder of what happened when power was used to control instead of to serve. But across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds and countless space stations, a new civilization flourished under principles that humans had brought to the stars. Species that it once called humans, dangerous primitives, now looked to them for leadership, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. And in making that choice, they discovered what humans had always known, that true strength comes not from the power to force others to obey, but from the wisdom to help them become their best selves. Humanity had walked away from diplomacy, as the Council defined it. In doing so, they had shown the galaxy what real diplomacy could accomplish.